Hey everybody, this is Marian Cowing Owen.
And this is David Owen.
And this is You Show Me Yours, the podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. And today I was made to watch Trick or Treat.
Yes, as part of the Spooktacular.
Ooh.
And the is very important because there is another movie called Trick or Treat, which is about, which was made in the 80s during the height of the Satanic Panic, and it is about a literal demonic rock and roll heavy metal band.
Okay, so this is Trick or Treat with the apostrophe.
Yes, apostrophe R. Yes, also, it had different names. It was had a working title, I think, of October 31st at one point, and Season's Greetings, because the breakout character from this, Sam, comes from a short called Season's Greetings that the director made in film school. But they finally settled on Trick or Treat, apostrophe R. And Trick or Treat, if you don't know, is the 2007, we'll talk about it, 2009, Michael Dougherty. Yeah, it's like, I know how to pronounce it, but when I look at it, immediately my mind is like, well, you got to pronounce more of that, because that doesn't look like Dougherty. It looks like Dougherty. Anyway, Michael Dougherty, my buddy Mike.
Mike D.
D.
Not that one.
Yeah, not that one. Michael D. This is a whole Michael Myers kind of situation. He wrote and directed it, and it is a Halloween anthology horror movie, and it is very Halloween. A lot of the movies that we watch are just horror movies for the Spooktacular. They're just horror movies. This is a movie that luxuriates in Halloween and the traditions of Halloween. Mm-hmm. So it is a very, a lot of people start their spooky season movie watching with this, or end with this, because it does take place on Halloween night.
Okay.
So it's very it's very Halloween forward, and this is a real interesting movie. It has a pretty interesting story, which we'll talk about. Story in terms of the story of the movie, but also the story of the production of the movie and that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. Where to start? What were your initial impressions? So this is a question for you, because I think this is the kind of thing that can get you. Were you able to follow it well enough? Because it jumps around. Well,
yes, it jumps around, and I did not think that was a helpful structure, because for the first little bit, it's like interwoven stories that sometimes crisscross and then go back, and then all of a sudden you're like, earlier.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, either have them all woven together or have them be 4 segments. Which I think can be interesting, because then you see events from this perspective and that perspective. And
you do that anyway.
Yes.
In this structure.
Yes. Only a few times. But I'm saying, I think if you do 4 segments, that's a little, you don't get quite as much whiplash that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've seen this movie several times, but the first time I saw it, I immediately loved the structure of it. Mm-hmm. So this is an anthology movie, which we talked about, last week, as we're doing these sort of categories of movies, so to speak. And this is an anthology movie, and anthology movies generally have had an MC. So some of the more famous anthology horror movies are Creepshow, who has the Creep. Who is like a character who basically introduces the different stories. Okay. Of course, you have Tales from the Crypt, which has the Crypt Keeper. Yeah. There was a series called Body Bags, where actually John Carpenter played a mortician who sort of introduced the stories. Of course, the ultimate MC of all time is Rod Serling with the Twilight Zone.
Serling, no S.
Sorry.
No T.
Yes, you're right.
Imagine if you will.
Yes, exactly. Then you had other shows Outer Limits and Tales from the Dark Side, which didn't really have an MC, but it was very common for that structure. So you have somebody who is introducing the conceit or whatever. At a certain point, people started to sort of strain against that. Like, this is kind of limiting. There were some interesting takes done. So, for instance, Twilight Zone, or sorry, not Twilight Zone, Tales from the Dark Side, which famously didn't really have an MC, who they would kind of have like a little introduction at the beginning. They had the guy, a world of, at the beginning that. I'll play the real thing here. I'm sure I'm playing it right now. The Tales from the Dark Side movie has this great conceit where there's this kid. You have your lead segment. You have a kid who is locked. It's a modern day.
Mm-hmm.
This kid is locked in a cage in a kitchen, and a witch is about to cook him. And he tells her stories to keep tales from the dark side, to keep her entertained and to keep her from eating him while he can like formulate his escape.
Okay.
And so when this came out, this was like a revelation because you had exactly what you just said, like these sort of paint by numbers, like everybody was used to the Crypt Keeper, introducing the thing or the different like structure, the standard structure of this sort of thing. And then when this came out and it was just like, hey, it's an anthology but there's no borders, there's no boundaries here. It was kind of revolutionary in that sense. I'm not going to say no one ever did it before. That'd be more research than I can be asked to do. But it's a really interesting structure, and it gives you these little things. Like one of the first times you notice it is during the principal segment. He's in the backyard and he's going back into his house and he looks to his neighbor, his crotchety old neighbor, and he's banging on his window and asking for help. And then he gets like whisked out of the window by somebody tackling him. And Steven, the principal, is just like,
whatever,
crazy old man. Guy. And
although that guy is Brian Cox, so we're going to come back to that.
So that's like, okay, what's going to happen there? It's kind of, and then there's all kinds of stuff. The more you watch it, there are points. So let me start out by outlining the segments. So there's the introductory segment, which is a couple coming back from this Halloween town's Halloween party, this town that is like, they go all out for Halloween.
Yeah, and this is at the end of the night.
This is at the end of the night, right? They're coming home and they she hates Halloween and he loves it, and he's got their yard all decorated, and despite his warnings not to, she blows out their final pumpkin and starts taking down the decorations, and our hero Sam comes and teaches her not to trifle with the traditions of Halloween by killing her and shoving a jack-o'-lantern sucker in her mouth, a giant jack-o'-lantern sucker in her mouth. And so during that intro, we see all of our principal characters, or most of our principal characters, in one way or another, right? Yeah. We see Rhonda, who will later be in what we'll call the school bus segment or the school kids segment. She crosses the street in front of like a Volkswagen Jetta that is filled with our damsels in distress, who we will later find out are she-wolves, not in distress at all. And we have our intro, and we find out that Sam is actually watching from across the street at Mr. Krieger's, who is the aforementioned tackled man, Brian Cox. And Krieger lives next to Steven and his son, who are in another segment. And so we've got our intro segment, our intro couple segment. We've got our principal segment, which features
Principal AL. The principal is supposed to be your pal, but he's really not.
Yeah. And his son, and the shenanigans that go on with that, which again, we'll get into all this stuff in more detail. I'm just trying to give you the bones here. And then you've got the she-wolves You've got Lori, who is a Anna Paquin, who is a Little Red Riding Hood, and they're just a bunch of horny 20-somethings out to bed some men, or so we think. And this is going to be Lori's first time, quote, air quotes, first time. And they end up having quite a party, which again we'll talk about later. And then you have Rhonda and her quote friends. Rhonda is on the spectrum. Just something's going on with Rhonda. She's
poor girl.
Yeah, and a group of kids decide to prank her and bring her along for a prank that goes bad, and that is our school bus or our school kids segment. And that's your basic set of segments. And then those all are interlocking. Like I said, Rhonda crosses the street, the she-wolves slam on the brakes. Sam is watching this from across the street, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. Because at the end they do that sequence again. And
they show you everything. But there are points in the night where you hear the she-wolves howling in the background. And in fact, Rhonda, I think, comments werewolves. When she hears that. So it kind of, it's giving you all this sort of interlocking time reference, which is, like I said, on a first watch, I can understand. Pulp Fiction, first watch, can be very confusing.
Well, it wasn't that I was confused. It was just that I didn't like the shifting time element. Like, I'm okay with the intro and then we do earlier that night. But then you go through all this time and then you get to Krieg and then you're earlier again. And I thought, I don't know. That seems kind of sloppy to me.
I don't know if sloppy is the word for it. It's just, how do you tell a tale that is all happening simultaneously, right? The number one choice is you tell each tale fully, independently in their own slot. And you just give vague clues that they're happening at the same time. Or you do what they did here, which is they do a couple time jumps back and forth, and all the time that they're giving you these hints. There's a news report that we see happening live, and we also then see that being watched live in the Krieg segment later. So they give you all these like points, temporal like anchors where you can go like, okay, so this is happening during this. And I also think it's just way more, for my money, it's way more fulfilling to not have each of these stories pay off like this set up, climax, payoff, set up, climax, payoff, set up, climax, payoff, set up, climax.
Maybe.
I mean, I 100%, I think your criticism is valid, and it's something that people have had of this movie.
I just think they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. And I'm like, pick a lane.
I don't know. I put it in the Pulp Fiction thing of like Pulp Fiction. I think this movie is not as entertaining without all this interconnectivity. I think Pulp Fiction is not as entertaining a movie without the timey-wimey nature of when are these things happening? Oh, well, Jules, he's wearing the shirt, so it must be after this happened.
Well, if you're going to do that, then really do it, and not. It felt like they didn't know how to integrate the Krieg story into everything, so they're like, well, we'll do a flashback. That's fine.
I don't know. Anyway, So this movie, like I said, it luxuriates in Halloween. And it wants you to follow the rules of Halloween. Were you able to decipher the rules of Halloween?
Well, sort of. So, yeah, it starts out with this, don't blow out your jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah, let it go out naturally.
Well, but no, I said to you, what if your candle goes out? And you said, oh, no, you're still in trouble. Then you have to. No. Okay, well.
I was just kidding.
You can't do that.
No,
this is not a joking matter.
So your jack-o'-lantern should burn for the whole night. Okay. Is the aim, but essentially, don't blow it out. The blowing it out is the offense. Letting your jack-o'-lantern go out probably still might get you in trouble with Sam, but blowing it out is 100% going to get you in trouble.
Well, yeah. So then, the husband at the beginning is sort of explicit about, no, you can't do that. That's an ancient, But then they're not as explicit throughout the rest of the movie about any rules. Except for Sam doesn't kill what's-his-face when he gets candy.
Right. So hand out treats is another rule. And Krieger technically hands out a treat to him. Check your candy is another rule, and that's explicitly stated by Steven.
Yeah. Okay.
And what's the other? Don't go to strangers' house. Don't go to a stranger's house. I can't remember. Anyway, there's like 4 or 5 rules.
Yeah. See, it's just I
just can't remember them. Is what I'm saying. So it's not necessarily like you can look at the different things, right, that Sam is doing. So for instance, an interesting one to talk about is Steven, right? So Steven is the principal of the school. There is this sort of slovenly kid who's just, chocolate on his face, belly hanging out.
He's kind of like Augustus Gloop. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Clear troublemaker. He's smashing pumpkins. And he ends up stealing a bunch of candy from Steven's house. And he sits down and he introduces him to, the traditions of Halloween and how important it is and how the jack-o'-lanterns fend off the evil spirits. And, one of the rules is, and this kid's stuffing his face with the candy he's stolen from Steven because Steven had a sign that said, take only one.
Yeah.
And another rule is always check your candy. And Steven poisons him. So the reason that Steven gets on Sam's radar is because Steven isn't staying true to the holiday.
Mm-hmm.
The traditions are to ward off evil, and Steven is evil.
Yes.
So he's taking advantage of the traditions of the holiday in order to entrap and kill people, as opposed to respecting the warding off capabilities that this stuff should have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's perverting the holiday. So that's why Steven is gets his comeuppance. Of course, the intro couple, the woman is blowing out the candles, taking down the decorations, blowing out the jack-o'-lantern, taking down the decorations. Should not happen. Krieg doesn't hand out candy until he accidentally does hand out candy. So each of these people and the pranksters with Rhonda they're just jerks.
Mm-hmm.
Sam doesn't technically kill the pranksters or cause their death. They cause their own death because one of the other aspects of Halloween is that the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. So that's the time you don't want to really mess with the spirits.
Yeah. He kind of does, though. Rhonda passes him at some point and he gives her kind of an approving nod. So he is nodding because Rhonda is honoring the traditions. Rhonda never. So all of the other kids blow out their pumpkins in the prankster scene. You might notice. Yeah.
Rhonda keeps the one lit pumpkin with her as she leaves. She's also wearing a costume. Wear a costume is another of the rules. And Krieger's not wearing a costume, all these things. She's wearing a costume. She's holding a lit pumpkin. And so he just kind of waves her on, gives her a little subtle nod as he goes down to sort of luxuriate in the massacre that the ghost children are doing down in the quarry.
Mm-hmm.
So he's giving her the nod because you
have passed the test.
She's doing what she's supposed to do. So Sam is the sort of enforcer of Halloween, and the different ways in which the people are violating. And I think Steven is the most interesting one because he's violating like the spirit of Halloween, whereas other people are explicitly violating the rules of Halloween.
Yeah. Although what's interesting is Sam doesn't do anything to him. It's Lori and her gang who do.
Right. Yeah. But Sam is, Sam gleefully watches as Steven gets his in the end.
Yeah.
So that's, and then you can also say the same thing of like some of the folks that are with the group that gets eaten by the she-wolves, the news guys, for instance, not wearing costumes.
Mm-hmm.
There's different, like you can look for different violations from each individual kind of as you go through.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things I was saying earlier is this movie, 2007, 2009 is the release date. This movie had a very difficult release, and there's kind of an interesting story behind it. So I don't know if you remember, or certainly this is a phenomenon I think you can relate to in movies. If you just think, anybody, if you just think about it, there are these, there have been these directors. They're all male directors, but I don't know whether that matters or not. There have been this set of directors who have had some level of success, and then entire companies have been placed on their back only for them to then sort of fumble it. So of course the recent most famous one is Zack Snyder with the DC universe, the DC movie universe. He had some great success with 300 and his other movies, and they were really looking to put things on his back. And the Snyderverse just kind of fell apart. It was too dark. It was not what people wanted, whatever. And now James Gunn has had that entire franchise put on his back. Well, earlier, and this is we're staying in the Warner-verse here. Warner Brothers, if you don't know, owns DC Comics. So prior to Snyder, the previous guy who had the hopes and dreams of Warner Brothers placed on his shoulders was Bryan Singer. He of Usual Suspects fame. He also did the X-Men, the first two or three X-Men movies for Fox. And so Warner Brothers snapped him up and were like, here's the crown, you're the king, make us a Superman movie. And he made what I think is a great Superman movie, Superman Returns, with Brandon Routh as Superman, that sort of disavows the later Christopher Reeve Superman movies 3 and 4 and says like, hey, okay, after Superman 2, Superman disappears for a while and he's gone for a while and he comes back. And this is what happens when he comes back. And forget about 3 and 4, they didn't happen. Richard Pryor, amazing comedian. Superman 3, not a good movie. Superman 4, even worse.
Okay.
And it just bombed horribly. And Michael D, as we've established his name is, Michael D was a disciple of Bryan Singer.
Okay.
So he was a writer on X2 with Singer. He was a writer on Superman Returns, and in the process of sort of being a hanger-on of Bryan Singer, he got the opportunity to make this movie. And so he makes it, and they get it done in sometime in 2007, just in time for 2006, 2007, just in time for Superman Returns to bomb at the box office and Bryan Singer to basically be on the outs. And Warner Brothers is so petrified of releasing another sort of Singer adjacent flop that they back away from the planned October 2007 release because they're afraid of what has now become the juggernaut that is Saw, the Saw movies. They're releasing Saw 4. That was the tradition for a while. I don't know if you noticed, but like for about 10 years, they released a Saw movie every Halloween. Okay. And so they back off from the release date. They get cold feet on that 2007 release date because Warner Brothers calculates they just can't take another financial disaster. And they've put like $60 million into this movie and they need it to return on investment. But it starts getting shown in 2007, it starts getting shown at screenings. It starts getting shown at festivals, and it builds a ton of buzz. And for the next 2 years, it is just like this festival darling, and people love it. And there's all this talk about it, but it's not enough to convince Warner Brothers that it's worthy of a wide release. So they just sort of quietly release it direct to DVD in 2009. So most people will cite sort of the release date of 2007, but this movie wasn't widely available to the public till like 2009. So, it's one of those question mark things. But yeah, just because poor Mike was so closely associated with Bryan Singer, he really kind of doesn't get a chance to do a whole lot. He doesn't get a fair shake with this movie and doesn't get a chance to do a whole lot. He doesn't really get to do anything else until until Krampus, which is Krampus is an amazing movie. We need to watch it sometime.
Okay.
It is a holiday horror movie. It is a Christmas holiday horror movie, and it's wonderful. It's got all the same sort of sense of humor and stuff of this movie, and it's just great. And that kind of gets him back, sort of on track. He then stumbles into, and I think this is really kind of stumbled into it, the current Godzilla franchise. So he ends up directing King of the Monsters, which was like the American return of Godzilla.
Okay.
Or the second one. I can't remember. He ends up involved in Godzilla. So the first Godzilla movie famously ends with a teaser that King Kong will be introduced into this sort of monsterverse.
Mm-hmm.
And they do that with Skull Island and so forth and so on. And now we are on like the third or fourth Godzilla versus King Kong movie that has been released. And he's been somewhat involved in all of those. He, like I said, he straight out directed King of the Monsters and wrote it. And then based on the things that he put in place, he's had story credits or, additional writing credits on all the sort of following Godzilla movies, Godzilla King Kong movies. So interesting career that he's had, like really, but this movie should have been like the star making thing for him.
Mm-hmm.
But because of how poorly Superman Returns did, which again, I think is a great Superman movie. If you just give it a chance, especially if you watch Superman 1 and 2 and then you watch Returns, it all works so well together. But in the meantime, he never really gave up. He had Sam appearing in comic books and other shorts and stuff and fleshing out his story. And, Sam has kind of become a second tier iconic, Halloween character. Like he's not Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger or any of that, but you'll see him at I believe he's at one of the Halloween Horror Nights or something, like
Mm-hmm.
there's a trick or treat display and stuff. And also I think Sam is just like, he's custom made to be a Halloween icon. He's a little kid in a costume. He's got the big oversized burlap sack head.
Well, it's like a lot of things. It's disarmingly cute, but then deadly.
Yeah.
Which is a nifty combination. One thing though, I kept thinking of the mascot for a video game that we used to play, yes,
Sackboy.
Yes.
Yeah.
We called it Silly Man Racing Game, but it was Little Big Planet or
Little Big
whatever
Planet
it was.
Racing. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Sackboy. Yes.
Is there a connection?
No.
there?
No.
Okay.
No connection.
Good. Because I can't. I can't.
Yeah. What do you think? No connection. But what do you think of staying on Sam for a second? What do you think of the unmasked Sam?
Well, it's like a cross between a pumpkin and like the creature from Alien.
Yeah, it's kind of like a skeletal pumpkin. Like he gets shot a couple
and
times,
he's all
and
full of pumpkin guts.
He is a pumpkin basically.
Yeah, I don't.
Like there are people who think that his unmasked, that he's kind of cute when he's unmasked. Like kind of like a puppy, kind of cute,
cute in the way that like those, hairless cats are cute.
Right.
Like,
yes.
Ugly, but
yes, ugly cute. Yeah. Sam is a trip. Sam played by a 7-year-old in the movie.
Oh gosh.
The kid who plays the peeper, who's peeping on the she-wolves, is the kid who plays Sam. There's a kid looking through the slats and trying to catch a peek.
Okay.
He plays Sam. Sam, you can also, like I said, Season's Greetings was a short that they made with Sam. It's one of those subvert your expectations thing where Sam is trick-or-treating on a dark street all alone at night and he's hitting all the doorbells and nobody's answering, and then there's a creeper following him, and not a Minecraft creeper, like a creeper.
Yeah.
And the creeper goes after him, and then the next thing you see, in shadow, you see the creeper attack, and then the next thing you see is Sam walking out of the alley where they fought, and he's dragging his candy sack, and it's the size of a person. The size of the creeper, he's dragging the creeper. So Sam, a pretty cool little character. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend a ton of time on any individual story, but let's do run down the stories at least, and just get some individual thoughts. So I think the easiest one to start with is the Stephen stuff in the house, the principal segment, as it's often called. Kind of fun, a little bit of dark humor in that segment.
Sure. And then it was just gross.
Yeah, it's gross. And it's great. So the Stephen stuff, Stephen again is he's in two parts. He's got his own little segment here immediately following the intro, that interlocks with a couple of other segments, but also then is later revealed to be the sort of sexy vampire in a mask who has killed a lady. And we already know, he's evil. So he does mention to his son, "Oh, I have a date later." Mm-hmm. This is clearly his date when he puts his fake vampire fangs on and kills this lady.
Yeah. I'm concerned for the future of this little kid.
Oh,
by
100%.
The way, because so it's mentioned that the mom died.
Yeah.
And how did she die? Leave that up to your imagination.
Yeah.
And his father is, now gone, but also was terrible. And in the last shot of the kid, he's sitting on the porch and he's wearing, I guess, his costume, which is dressed up as his dad.
Yeah, well, he's wearing his dad's clothes. Costume, yes, but like he's straight up wearing his dad's clothes.
Complete with blood all over the shirt.
From the fat kid that he killed earlier.
And I'm just like, oh no.
Well, that's the thing. So that's supposed to be the disturbing part of the story, right?
Well, it is.
When Stephen is talking to the trick-or-treater that he kills, he says, "I didn't really understand the holiday until my father explained it to me." And then here he is teaching his son how to carve a jack-o'-lantern, which is actually the trick-or-treater kid's head.
Well, yeah, it's sort of a funny fake out. For whatever reason, Stephen has a pit in the backyard where he puts bodies.
Yeah, you presume he's been doing this for a while.
Yeah, well, there's a body in there already, and then he puts the fat kid's body in there.
Yeah, so there's a fresh body, because there's a kid in like a clown costume that clearly isn't dead yet.
Who it turns out is not fully dead.
And then there are what appears to be other bodies beneath them. So it seems like this is almost a yearly tradition for him with Halloween, where he digs up this hole where he already has these other bodies buried and just adds more onto it. And you assume like maybe at the bottom of that hole is the kid's mom.
Yeah. And yeah, so he puts Charlie in it and kills the person who's not dead, and then covers it back up and puts this creepy looking gnome on top of it.
Yeah.
And in the while he's doing this, the kid calls out from, "Daddy, are we going to carve the jack-o'-lantern?" And Stephen's doing all this, excuse me, stuff that makes you think, oh, the kid doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then they're back in the kitchen, and you see a pumpkin on the counter. And he says, "Oh, let's go downstairs and carve it." And you're like, "Wait, what? What's downstairs?"
Yes. All right.
And what's downstairs is the fat kid's head.
Yes.
Which is terrifying.
Yes, and they carve it. The kid has a way of sort of doing this. Like he's got the little kid actor who's playing his son has got a pretty good line deliveries. He's doing the super annoying thing, "Dad," and his dad, of course, is trying to keep him quiet because he's burying a body in the backyard. And then at the end, when he keeps saying, "You got to help me with the eyes, you got to help me with the eyes," and then at the end, when they start to carve, he's like, "You got to help me with the eyes," like. Very good line delivery on that kid. But yeah, that's the thing. That's the cycle, right? That's the Stephen segment cycle, which is his dad taught him to presumably be a killer, and he has taught his son to be a killer. So in the end, when the dad is gone and the kid is there literally wearing his dad's clothing and handing out, by the way, the poison candy.
Yeah.
Did you catch? So this is a fun thing. Upon continual watches, you catch more and more stuff. So in the middle of the way we establish that he's a school principal is that in the middle of his sort of trying to kill this kid and get him downstairs, some trick-or-treaters come and he gives them candy. And then we sort of get our first good look at Sam. The three kids who he clearly knows peel away and these are also the kids that will later be part of the pranks with the prank with Rhonda. They peel away, and Sam is standing there, and he holds out the candy, and Sam reaches in and grabs a sort of an oversized candy bar, and takes it with him.
Oh, is that what
the candy bar is? Later, Sam opens the candy bar, and there's a razor blade in it, and he uses that to attack Mr. Krieger. So
I did not put that together.
He literally gets the razor blade in the, because you look at that the first time, you're like, is he just got a candy bar with a razor blade in it? Like, no, he got it from Steven.
Oh,
because Steven is poisoning and or putting razor blades into all of the candy at his house. And so later on, the Sam's implement that he uses to attack Krieg is I keep saying Krieger to use to attack Krieg is the candy bar from Steven, which I think is great. So that segment, totally messed up.
Yes.
And then we've got the I guess the she-wolves are next. Great segment, subverting, again, a lot of this is about subverting your expectations. The segment with Steven where it looks like he's going to kill his kid. It looks like his kid is in danger. He's going to kill his kid. Subverts your expectations. And the funny thing is, like, they are totally choreographing it the whole time. The more you watch it, the more you realize how much they're choreographing it. She's dressed as Little Red Riding Hood for number one. The girls that are with her, the other three girls, one of which is her sister, who does the Cinderella costume. They say they're going to huff and puff and blow the door down if she doesn't come out of her dressing room to show her costume. They once Laurie encounters the vampire, they do the whole "what big eyes you have" kind of thing, and they choreograph it so hard. Like, there's a point, whether this is meant to be related or not, there is a point where in the Krieg segment where after he's already accepted that he needs to give out candy and he's been through his ordeal, some kids come to his door and it's three little pigs. Whether or not that's supposed to be related, I don't know, but it's very and that segment, again, just subverting expectations. The damsel in distress, that is not in distress at all, and you get some hot girls in there for the horny teens watching or whatever. Sure. Like we said, Laurie ends up encountering Steven as the vampire who has already killed one person, is looking for another victim. And she very much lulls him into her trap so that he can be her first. And I love so in horror, there used to be this benchmark, especially in the 80s, where these different guys, Rick Baker and these other guys, were trying to outdo themselves with werewolf transformations. Right. And there's the American Werewolf in London transformation, which, even if you haven't seen that movie, you've probably seen scenes from it where his hand stretches and the muzzle comes out of his mouth and all this stuff. And then there's a famous one as well in The Howling, which is another just gruesome transformation scene, all sort of playing back to the Wolfman, which is this sort of just time lapse of more prosthetics getting added to, I think, Lon Chaney Jr.'s face. I love the werewolf transition in this movie, which is just that essentially they just rip their skin off and the werewolf is underneath. Yeah. Well, and for a second it looks like they're just getting naked and you're like, I see what's happening. And then you're like, oh no, now I see what's happening. Each other with fingernails, what's going on? Yeah. And it's just a great transition. And like, there's not a whole lot to be said about this other than it's one big expectation subversion. Yeah. That's what it's all about. These poor, like, it's her first time, like her first kill. Yeah. And Steven is then exposed, like it's that whole thing of like, you think for a minute, because you don't know what this movie's up to, he might be a real vampire because he killed this lady. Then they pop his teeth off and take his mask off. And he's just a fake vampire. But yeah, it's just a great segment for that. There's an Easter egg in here, which does not matter to you at all, but I find it hilarious. So, Laurie's sister is setting her up with a nice boy who ends up being a big fat guy dressed up as a baby. Yeah. There's a movie called 13 Ghosts, which is a remake of a movie from the 50s or whatever. And in it there are 13 ghosts, and one of the ghosts is a giant baby, and it's the same guy playing that giant baby as was playing the giant baby ghost in 13 Ghosts, which is just one of those like just perfect chef's kiss moments of like they got the giant baby from 13 Ghosts to play the giant baby. Great. It's great. And we should watch 13 Ghosts sometime. I almost tried to include it in this, but I just couldn't find a exact place to put it, really. I don't know. Maybe I could still sub it in. We'll see. So the She-Wolves. Yeah, just a great segment. Probably my favorite segment is the Rhonda School Bus Kids segment, because it's just got a great, it ties together with another story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just got the most sort of atmosphere. It's got a legit ghost story in it. You know, there's nothing better than sitting around and like telling a ghost story on Halloween, you know, and being at the place. You know, one of the great things about growing up where I grew up is we had this bridge, Lydia's Bridge, that is, you know, and like a lot of towns have this, but and I know that everybody in their town says this too. As far as I know, we are the original ones, right? 1950s girl trying to, you know, get to the prom, killed in an accident by the bridge. And on a rainy night, you will see a girl in a prom dress huddled underneath the bridge, just trying to get home. Her name is Lydia. You put her in the car. You take her to her house. She tells you, you know, where she lives. You go around and open the door, and she's not there. You go up and knock on the door, and the elderly couple there tell you, "Oh, my daughter Lydia, she died 40 years ago.
She hasn't lived here."
Yeah. That was one of those things, right? You know, like you drive to Lydia's Bridge while you are telling the story about Lydia's Bridge. And of course, like, because for some reason I liked being a spoiler when I was like a shitty teen. The funny thing about Lydia's Bridge is the bridge that you drive through is not Lydia's Bridge. Lydia's Bridge is actually about like 100 yards or 75 yards off to the side, and covered in kudzu, overgrown in kudzu, which is a creeping vine that we have in North Carolina and some of the South. And, you know, that would always be my thing. Like after we would go through it, that's not even Lydia's Bridge. Like, you know, come on. Like, Lydia's Bridge is actually over there. No one, they diverted the road in 1970s.
Because they were afraid of Lydia.
Yeah. Because of Lydia. And, you know, it was a thing to dare, you know, your buddies in high school to go out and tag the bridge, spray paint the bridge. So the bridge got, the underpass that you drive under has got spray paint all over it, and tags and stuff. And, you know. But yeah, those kinds of stories where you're at the place and you're telling the story. Oh, by the way, I actually found out recently, there's this woman that I follow who's from Fuquay Varina. Her name is Liz. I can't remember her last name. And she does ghost tours and stuff in Fuquay Varina. She actually went to Lydia's Bridge. They have now cleared it out and made a walking path that goes through the actual Lydia's Bridge in Jamestown.
What?
Yes. So if you're in Jamestown, North Carolina, you can walk through the actual Lydia's Bridge now. It's no longer overgrown by kudzu and completely inaccessible. They actually made a path to walk under it.
Is this a good thing?
Yes. We're going to go.
On
Halloween night, we're going to go to Lydia's Bridge.
True. Our kid doesn't have a game.
Exactly.
So.
Yes. And they are at a rock quarry, and the lead girl, I forget her name. I could look it up, but I'm not gonna.
Just her name is Bitch.
Yeah, Bitch, blonde Bitch is telling the story of these kids, and the story, as the story goes, there was a group of parents who had these
gruesome
various types of disabled children. You know, maybe criminally insane, maybe just autistic. One kid, I think clearly, the vampire, I think is clearly just autistic. And they're ashamed of these kids, and they gather up their money and they pay the bus driver on Halloween to just take the kids and drive them off into the quarry and be rid of them. These families are just these, you know, and it was the 50s, right? Like there wasn't nearly as much understanding of how this sort of stuff worked. And so the bus driver goes to drive these kids off into the quarry. If you're not familiar with rock quarries, you know, they quarry out all this rock, and they sort of do this like spiraling downward thing where they continue going down, 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 and down. And they end up with this sort of stair step that goes down super deep, hundreds and hundreds of feet deep. And when they're done with that and they're no longer maintaining it, it almost just sort of naturally fills up with water. And so you get these lakes that are super deep and have these sheer sides. And, you know, like every town has one, or like every, you know, small to medium sized town has one.
As a matter of fact, if you listen to our episode on Breaking Away,
yes,
they had a quarry there.
There's a quarry pond as well.
Swam in.
Yes.
The cutters excavated that.
And I believe High Rock Lake in High Point, near where I grew up, was a quarry lake as well. And so he drives off the edge into this quarry lake, and or he goes to drive off, but he miscalculates how agile the vampire kid is, and he manages to the vampire kid. So he's handing out candy. I don't know why. I think it's under
to lull them into.
Yeah, it's either like maybe the candy's drugged, or maybe he's just using it as an opportunity to check their chains because they're all chained up.
Yeah, like what do we call those, leg irons? Like you.
Yeah, they're like they're chained to the
death row inmates.
Yeah, to the floor of the bus as well. And he's handing out candy, the bus driver, and he's checking all their chains. And as he's doing that, the vampire is like, you know, wrong turn, want to go home. And he slides his manacles off and manages to get up to the front and is just like jamming on the pedals and trying to drive the bus. And he manages to activate the bus and send it over the edge with all of the kids and the bus driver inside. And, you know, as the story goes, the kids drowned. The bus was so deep it was never found, and no one ever heard from the bus driver again, although we are shown the fact that the bus driver did seem to survive.
Well, yeah, I was like, no one ever heard from the bus driver because we assume he was in the bus at the bottom of the lake. Right. Why would you expect to hear from him again? That's strange.
Well, because we knew the kids were for sure attached, but the bus driver wasn't. So like there's the smallest possibility that he could have potentially escaped maybe. So they bring pumpkins. They get pumpkins. They bring pumpkins to honor the 8 dead kids, and they end up the 4 kids end up pranking Rhonda. They dress up as ghouls and frighten her, but unbeknownst to them, the actual ghouls are about, because again it's Halloween and the layer is thin between.
And they blew out their pumpkins as to scare her into thinking that they had actually been attacked.
Yeah, and so they don't have any means to protect themselves. And Rhonda, after getting scared and tripping and hitting her head and you know going through this whole ordeal, ends up in the elevator that leads back up from the quarry by herself with the key, and locks out all the other kids and goes back up and leaves them to their fate. Which is when she then encounters Sam, like we talked about earlier.
I have to say, and as a kid who was not bullied as much as Rhonda was, not nearly as much, but I was not the popular kid. I was like, right on, Rhonda. Yeah. That's completely morally wrong, but good for you. Yeah. Like there are 4 fewer assholes in the world now.
Yes. Well, and you know, the justification there is they didn't follow the rules of Halloween. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, so, but yeah, Bus Kids, that's definitely seems to be a fan favorite. I think it's a lot of people's favorite.
It's heartbreaking though.
Oh, it is, absolutely. And it's got that atmosphere. And then we end up on Mr. Krieg's story, just a crotchety old man, just seems like a miserable old man. He's in his house, burning old pictures and drinking liquor and pranking kids with his dog. Who is named Spite.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
It's like a little
terrier
dog.
Kind of like a Spuds MacKenzie type, I think.
In between like a Spuds MacKenzie and the dog from Frasier.
Yeah. And he's got like 10 locks on each door of his house, which makes much more sense later when you realize who he is.
And so Krieg has a showdown with Sam. We get looped back around to the Steven segment where Krieg yells at Steven when he's in the backyard burying the kid. You know, it's you're bringing a few things into a few threads together. And he seems to successfully fight off. Oh, he says in the segment with Steven, he says my favorite line in the whole movie, which is he doesn't know what's going on. He says, "Who is that out there? I've got an NRA card in my pocket." Like that's a threat. But he also does say, and a shotgun over my mantle. But like that's the threat. Yeah. I've got an NRA card in my pocket. Yeah. But my favorite line, and you get to hear it twice.
And then, what else does he say? Something about it smells like a whore.
Yeah, it smells like a dead whore out there or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, I love Brian Cox. I love his he's 85% hiding his accent, his natural accent in there. Like it's great. But Krieg, he has a big, you get some of the most supernatural. I mean, obviously the ghost kids are supernatural, but some of the supernatural Sam stuff in there. Sam writes "trick or treat, give me something good to eat" in blood or something all over his, presumably the dog's blood because he kills the dog.
Oh,
all over the walls. He has a pumpkin. He has a jack-o'-lantern that bursts into flames. And then he does the great horror movie thing, the Achilles tendon slash.
I thought that's what it was.
Great horror movie, moment. Hand under the bed, razor blade on the Achilles tendon. And Krieg ends up fighting him off. He gets that aforementioned shotgun and blasts him in the face, blasts his hand off. This is when the mask comes off and we see his skeleton pumpkin face. Mm-hmm. And then it turns out that Sam is the embodiment of Salwin or whatever. And he, so he's fucking, magic. So his hand just walks around on its own. His hand stabs Krieg in the foot. Yeah. His hand reforms onto his body, all these different things. And then, like you said, he comes up to finish off Krieg, and Krieg had previously had a candy bar. He bit into it and he didn't, he spit it out. And he sat it on his side table, and
because it wasn't Stevens.
It was one of Stevens, so
bad.
maybe it was the poison. But he's kind of struggling for a grip on the table as he's been stabbed in the foot and Achilles tendon and all these different things. Sam bites him on the leg, and he spills a bunch of stuff on himself, including this candy bar. Sam goes for the stab and hits the candy bar, and there's some great Brian Cox is a legitimate good comedic actor. If you've ever seen him in anything like the first Super Troopers, he's good at playing it straight, but he's also good at being a little goofy, and he does a kind of a great, he stabbed, he's not stabbed, and he does a take where he's opens one eye kind of and looks around.
I'm still here.
And Sam pulls back his jagged jack-o'-lantern sucker, and he's impaled the candy bar, and Sam takes the candy bar as his treat. Yeah. So now Krieger has given out candy
and is okay,
and he just leaves
now. Bye-bye.
And he just leaves and he's gone. And then Krieg puts he gets himself all bandaged up, and he realizes he's better give out candy. And so when kids come to the door, the three little pigs come to the door, he hands out candy to all of them, honoring the traditions of Halloween. And then immediately another set of kids come to the door. The doorbell rings, and he opens up, and it's the zombie bus kids. At cue the cut to the fireplace and the slow zoom in on the all 8 kids and the bus driver, and Krieg is the bus driver.
And you put it together, and
you're like, oh god, he's the bus driver.
Yeah, it's like Ebenezer Scrooge had a change of heart, but then he was killed anyway.
Yes. Anyway, yeah, and like that's Trick or Treat pretty much. Trick or Treat, it pays a lot of homage to different things, like we said, 13 Ghosts. But one of the most famous things for Creepshow, which was George Romero and Stephen King and some other horror guys all coming together to make this anthology series. And one of the things that they use as a through line in that were these old EC comics from the 50s, which were these horror comics from the 50s, which also Tales from the Crypt kind of references to. I believe Tales from the Crypt was an EC comic. Mm-hmm. And Trick or Treat does some comic panels in there at the beginning and at the end. So it's a really cool movie that is paying homage to not just the people that probably are responsible for Michael D's love of horror movies, but it also, like we said, really is paying tribute to the holiday of Halloween in like a really fun way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just top to bottom. It's just possibly the best Halloween themed horror movie. Like certainly more thick on the Halloween themes than even Halloween itself. The movie Halloween.
I was, but what about Halloween 3? Season of the Witch.
Yeah, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is up there as a contender, which will forever, forever put the Silver Shamrock jingle into everyone's head. Hi, kids, it's almost time for the Silver Shamrock giveaway.
Put on your mask.
Put on your mask.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
And we watched that during 2020, which moves a whole other.
Jeez. But trick or treat. Yeah. So yeah, did you of the story threads? Did you have one that you liked more than the others?
Well, yeah, I liked that the bullies got theirs in the end.
Yeah.
And even though, Krieg, whatever his face is,
I don't know.
seemed to have had a change of heart right at the end. He still had to pay for his crimes, and so I like that too. Like, part of me is like, oh, he was so close to living a good life, and then but the crimes caught up with him. You can't really escape.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
So
you know, like,
justice is served.
yeah, and like you said, the locks make a lot more sense now. The being a curmudgeon that never goes outside makes a lot more sense now.
And the dog being named Spite. That's I mean, because I just want to know what happened to the parents. Like, that sort of guilt would have to eat at you. Like, that feels like a whole other.
So, on the one hand, the part about the vampire kid getting free is like kind of the embellishment that ghost stories get, right?
Well, yeah, that
like,
doesn't seem to make a difference.
Right. As far as the kids, as far as the parents know, just like things went to plan. Like the bus driver just took the money and ran or whatever, you know, once he did the deed. Yeah.
The vampire kid was looking out the window and saying some numbers. And then when we see the various houses later, they've got their house numbers are pretty big on the front. And I had forgotten at that point what the numbers were, but they were all very similar to the house numbers. And I was like, oh, that's going to be a clue. That's going to tell us which house is connected to it.
It could be. It could be.
And
yeah.
I forgot what it was.
And that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't put it past this movie, for sure. Like to have that kind of depth.
Yeah. Because he was saying something like 3765 which is close to what the house numbers were. Yeah. So, like the right number of digits, et cetera, et cetera.
Almost certainly you would think that those kids were probably from that same street.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me, that part reminds me, there is a fun cameo from the car Christine from the movie Christine.
Yeah.
In the 50s scene, there's a part where the bus is pulling up to make a turn.
Yeah.
And it's the point where it's supposed to turn one way and it turns the other way. And the vampire kid notices. And Christine is parked right there on the side of the road. So it's more of that like paying homage type stuff I was talking about before. Yeah. I mean, but also like, I just think this movie's just fun. Like it's just it's not like, it's almost clean enough to show to a younger kid, like a sub, like a 14, 15-year-old. There's a somewhat explicit sex scene depicted on a VHS tape being watched, which is just like, it's a lot. It's very, there's bouncing.
Yeah.
Which is just, uncomfortable for a 14 or 15-year-old to watch with their parents.
But it's like 2 seconds.
It's 2 seconds. And then there's a flash of a nipple during the werewolf transformation. Otherwise, it's all, if those couple of things weren't in there, this would be like a PG-13, and maybe not PG-13 just by removing those things, but like could be made into sort of a PG-13 horror movie, which I think is like, adults, horror fans talk all the time about rated R horror movies, and but not every movie. A lot of movies sit in that place where like they really benefit from being a PG-13 horror movie. You know?
Because the scary stuff is in your imagination.
Yeah, and I think this one could have potentially, because it's light on blood and guts. The Krieger's hands get all messed up from glass when he falls down and there's all the slicing and dicing that happens to him. And there's blood on the vampire victim, and there's all the stuff in the werewolf scene. But like, I feel like there's some artful cutting and stuff that could produce more of like a PG-13 type cut of this that you could show to your teens.
Yeah, it's very like your mind fills in the gaps. Like,
Yeah.
you know what a werewolf does to their victim.
Yeah, you don't need to see the sinew being pulled out.
Yeah.
To get like, you know, the werewolf bites the neck.
Yeah.
And like you get that part. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I know what comes next. You don't
And,
need
like,
to see it.
Like you see the fat kid's head in the basement, you can figure out that it was chopped off.
Yeah,
And you know, and like you see, you know, he's kicking the other body in there to kill it, but it's in a sack.
A sack.
So you don't see, you know, like,
you know, swings the shovel, but he swings it at the camera effectively,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah. So, but yeah, just a fun movie. And it is one of those, like, it's a great season starter. If you are a sort of a Halloween person, it's a great movie to kick off the season. It's a great movie to end the season, or do both. Watch it at the beginning and watch it at the end, you know. But yeah, just Trick or Treat. It's just one of those movies. It might be my favorite anthology. There are better individual stories in like Creepshow 1 or Creepshow 2 or Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. You know, so they're like individual stories I would pick and say like, oh, this Tales from the Dark Side story is better than any individual story in this. But as a whole, and because of the way that they, which again, this was a negative for you, but a positive for me, because of the way that they tell the story,
mm-hmm.
I think that this is probably my favorite horror anthology. And I would have loved to have seen more. You know, like I said, I think if they follow through with this, I think there's a world in which, and that 2007 release, I think there's a world in which it hits big, and Sam becomes an icon right up there to rival, Mike Myers and Michael Myers, and Mike Myers perhaps, is on still making movies to this day. You know, I would love to see another, you know, if freaking Floyd the Clown or whatever the hell his name is from Terrifier can become like a horror icon. You know, there's no reason Sam shouldn't have been a horror icon. Never watched the Terrifier movies. Just I'm just letting you know. Just don't. If anyone ever says, well, "Oh, we want to watch Terrifier," especially if they're like, "Oh, let's watch Terrifier 2," you don't want to do that. Okay?
I don't think I want to.
You don't want to do that. Audience, take your own risks. I just don't want to have to clean up the mess that would be left behind if my wife watched the Terrifier.
We're talking emotional mess, right?
Oh. Do emotions collect in a puddle?
What?
Do emotions collect in a puddle?
Okay, are you saying I would throw up, or I would pee my pants, or?
I mean, maybe both.
Maybe.
You might throw up out of an unexpected orifice.
There's only so many orifices. Am I going to throw up out of my ears?
Hey. So anyway, Trick or Treat. You should watch it. It's great. It really is sort of the Halloween movie. Like ever since I watched this movie, which I was a little late to the party. I might have seen it. Maybe I watched it around 2010, maybe. Like 2012, 2013. I've pretty much watched it it is my Scrooged of Halloween. I watch it every year, no matter what.
Okay.
So love it. Your mileage may vary.
Yes. Okay. Well, folks, we would love to know what you think about Trick or Treat. Which was your favorite story? Were you also satisfied when the bullies got their comeuppance? That really is my favorite part. We would love to know what you think. You can get in touch with us in a couple different ways. You can send us an email at ysmypodcast@gmail.com. That's YSMY for You Show Me Yours. You can find us on Facebook, same handle. You can DM us there, or if you go to our feed, you can see there'll be links to all of our episodes. We have new episodes typically every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, no matter when you're listening, there'll be a new episode, except for during October when we have episodes every month because it's the Spooktacular. Ooh. Did I say every month? Every week? Whatever. You know what I meant.
You know.
Yeah. And there's 5 Wednesdays in October this year, so there's 5 episodes this month. And next week, what are we watching, Dave?
Oh man, yeah. So I really want to do a haunted house type movie.
Okay.
And because I was talking about 13 Ghosts, I kind of might throw an audible because it's very much a haunted house movie.
I was going to say, you went through so much rumination and so many permutations and combinations of what movies we could watch, and now you're going to change it at the last minute.
So we are going to do next week is for sure a haunted house movie. I have a couple of possibilities, including now added to the list, 13 Ghosts. So tune in next week to find out if we do 13 Ghosts or something else that is sort of a haunted house type movie.
Okay, it'll be a spooky surprise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't come up with Halloween puns on the fly.
Yes. Yeah, it's tough.
Will it be a trick or a treat? All right. Well, then tune in next week for TBA movie.
Haunted House.
In the meantime, this has been You Show Me Yours. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.